All right, quickly, let's start off. Now, Deputy General Secretary of the ruling NDC, Atani Delali, has accused the flag bearer of the opposition New Patriotic Party, Nana Addo Akufo-Addo, of contributing to the deep cracks within the party. He says the opposition leader has done little to resolve the internal wrangling within the party. A move, he says, amounts to Nana Addo farting in the face of the party.
Well, Mr. Atani Delali was speaking on Joint News Current Affairs program PM Express.
If you have a leader who then decides to turn his back on the party, and excuse my language, to fart in the face of the party, then you're going to have all these problems that you're having. And at every point in time, the party is supreme, party first. It's about leadership. But if I recall, it was the same Nana Akufo-Addo, must have been 2009, 2010, thereabouts, when President Mills was still around. May his soul rest in peace. At a press conference at the Presby Hall in Osu, and then relating to the economy, and he said, look, if President Mills and his government, are saying that the economy is challenged, they should what? Fix it. Fix it. So all I'm saying, Nana Akufo-Addo, fix the problem in the MPP. You are the leader. Fix it and stop talking about it. Stop issuing fatwa saying people shouldn't go on radio. Because this is democracy. They are the ones who claim that they are the doyens of free speech and democracy. Now you are trying to guard people from airing their views on radio. Nana Akufo-Addo, there's a problem in your party. You admit it. Fix it.
Former NPP General Secretary Kojo Usofuye, however, dismissed his comments. He says that it is abysmal.
He also says President John Dramani Mahama is rather the one guilty of poor leadership.
To be deemed as failure on the part of leadership. Then it seems to me that the fact that this country is in serious crisis is a failure of leadership. The fact that we have been under doom-so for the last 3 years, unprecedented in the history of this country, is about failure of leadership. And indeed, there has been a paralysis of leadership under John Dramani Mahama. You understand? But yet, here is Kwaku, who says, oh, the man's leading, he's the leader. But every failure, if indeed a failure of this small proportion should be attributable to Nana Akufo-Addo's lack of leadership, then it seems to me that the whole country under this mess is a failure of leadership, and that I cannot wait to change such a competent leader in 2016.
Did we just give you black? Sorry about that.
Okay. So President John Dramani Mahama has vowed to deliver what he describes as a one-touch victory to the NDC if he gets the nod to lead the governing party into next year's general elections.
Well, the president, who is being contested by one George Boateng, said he is the best person to lead the party to victory come 2016. Hence, the need for him to be maintained as flag bearer come next year.
I promise that I'll continue the great heritage of our party, and I'll continue in the footsteps of my great predecessors, Jerry John Rawlings and Professor John Sakamils, and that I will do everything possible, materially, physically, spiritually, to ensure that I lead this party again into a one-touch victory.
Isn't politics interesting, Roland?
As always. And while the president was at the party's headquarters, well, the opposition New Patriotic Party has also been on a mission to get the country's electoral roll replaced, following its belief that the register has rather been compromised.
But while some groups have backed the opposition party's call, others are skeptical about the potential of a new register guaranteeing credible polls in 2016. The National Commission for Civic Education, NCCE, for instance, is asking all stakeholders to make constructive input into ways of improving the country's electoral system. And the Peace Council appears to agree with the NCCE. Reverend Professor Emmanuel is its chairman.
it is necessary for them to call stakeholders. And by stakeholders, we're talking about various political parties, civil society organizations, and individuals who are interested in the whole debate, for them to sit and reason together, so that we can find a consensus on the basis of which, the elections could be held. Because we don't want a situation where the voters register can be used as a pretext by any other group, to create conflict that could easily lead to violence in the country. Our position has always been that they should not limit themselves simply to the political parties, but they should try to open it up for civil society and other groups to do that. When we went there, we learned that that's precisely the kind of thing they want to do. They are planning to open it up for people to come together, civil society organizations as well as the political parties, to sit and judge so that they will be able to find a solution to the problem. They want to listen to the positions that have been submitted, and they would want to enter into dialogue. They didn't tell us that they're going to review or not. And through the discussions, we believe that consensus could be found with respect to what to do about the whole thing. And we were satisfied with the answers they gave.
Well, so we'll move on to the next story. In Ghana and Nigeria have resolved to revive and expand the joint Ghana-Nigeria Commission for Cooperation to enhance the common interests of both countries in areas of security and socio-economic cooperation.
Well, this was the outcome of a meeting between President John Mahama and President Buhari on the Nigerian leader's first official visit to Ghana. There's more in the following report. The Nigerian Air Force plane touched down at the Kotoka International Airport to a rousing welcome by the Ghanaian entourage led by President John Mahama. There was also strong representation from the Nigerian community in Ghana, who met their president with drumming and dancing. After a closed-door meeting which lasted more than 3 hours, President John Mahama and his Nigerian counterpart announced their discussions focused on security and socio-economic matters.
As two key sub-regional leaders, Ghana and Nigeria must lead the regional integration effort, which has enormous benefits for our individual countries and the region as a whole. We have in our discussions agreed to continue with our leadership in that direction, and the seeming similarities in our individual country visions and development agendas makes our work that much more easier. Ghana has also agreed to continue to work with Nigeria to guarantee the security and socio-economic prosperity of our two people. In that direction, our two ministries of foreign affairs will begin the process of reviving the joint Ghana-Nigeria Commission for Cooperation and progressively expand its focus to the level of a binational commission. As the immediate past chair of ECOWAS, I also reviewed with President Buhari the progress of the fight against the Boko Haram insurgents and conveyed to him my personal commendation and that of the sub-region for the quick response and his active deployment of military power to help with the fight against the insurgents.
The two countries have both suffered from unstable power supply for years. That, including climate change and general developmental issues, were also discussed.
President Buhari has also worked commendably to actively pursue the initiative to rope in all the member states of the Lake Chad Basin Commission and Benin in the fight against Boko Haram. This is enhancing the work of the multinational joint task force set up following the approval of the African Union and on the recommendation of the ECOWAS heads of state and government. We also agreed as two brotherly nations to encourage closer cooperation between the intelligence and anti-graft institutions of our two countries. Other issues that have engaged our attention include the economic partnership agreements and the new sustainable development goals, which will be launched this month on the sidelines of the UNGA. Africa's position on climate change, sharing of ideas on the energy sector, and the current power challenges, and how we can work together to ensure energy security for our two people. And also regarding the 40th anniversary of ECOWAS, which is to hold in Abuja at a date to be agreed.
President Buhari highlighted what he believed was his administration's containment of the Boko Haram insurgency.
I'm sure you have noted that the first thing I did before I made that announcement was firstly to reorganize the military. And a clear terms of reference was drawn and handed over to them in terms of retraining, re-equipping, and redeploying the troops. And I think if we have been listening hard enough, or if you have been to Northeast, the military is really gaining ground. And Boko Haram is virtually limited now to Sandisa forest. And the people, that is the persons that have been moved out because of the insurgency, there's the internally displaced persons, gradually moving back to their constituencies, and they are being integrated into their respective communities. So really, if you bother to find out, a lot of progress is being made.
Also, cooperation between the two countries is always important, but they had also been not only advising each other, but also talking about issues of asset declaration and a lot more that concerns the citizens of both countries. Well,
President John Mahama said Ghana's amendment to the law on asset declaration will make access to information on assets held or assets of public officials easier and transparent. He was speaking yesterday at the Peduase Lodge, where he hosted President Buhari of Nigeria.
Just so that you understand the regime in Ghana, it's the same as constitutional. You are supposed to declare your assets after you have assumed public office, and then when you are leaving public office, and your assets declaration is supposed to be deposited with the Auditor General. Now, the constitutional amendment we are moving is for those declared assets, the assets declaration, to be made available to the media, that is possible publication. And so that's the amendment to the Constitution that is being done to make it more transparent. But even in this current, regime, any person who wants to challenge, the assets declared by any person, any public official, is allowed to do so with a court order or a petition to charge the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice to contest, those declared assets. And the assets declaration will be made available to that particular institution to investigate. And so there's a leeway. But once we amend the Constitution, it will make it mandatory that anybody who goes and requests the assets declaration forms from the Auditor General will have to be given those assets declarations. So I guess that will make it more transparent. Thank you very much. And
thank you very much.
And already, the president of Nigeria had been informing his Ghanaian counterpart that since he assumed office, he's declared his asset 4 times already.
Actually talking about since he got into leadership in Nigeria. Well, the president was actually asked to make recommendation for Ghana as we make amendments to our declaration, asset declaration law. And he indicated that, well, although the law provides or makes it possible for journalists to access such information, they're always harassing him. Just take a listen to him.
In Nigeria, it has been an old thing, in the sense that I could recall in 1975, when Late Murtala became the head of state, we were lined up in the corridor. All those who are governors, ministers, members of the Supreme Military Council, and officials of the Ministry of Justice were brought, and every individual has to declare his asset. So right now, all the living Nigerian elite, in terms of head of state or president, governors, permanent secretaries, ministers, have to declare their assets in the constitution. So Nigeria is a constitutional issue. And that's why I am blaming you, ladies and gentlemen of the press. If you want really investigative journalism, you don't have to come and worry me at this stage. I have declared my asset at least 3 times. In 1975, when I was a governor, and I declared after being Minister of Petroleum and member of Supreme Military Council, when I was going to War College, I declared when I became head of state, I declared now again. So I'm declaring my asset 4 times. All that I have, and you have the right to go and demand for my declaration, but no president has ever done it. Instead, I'm being harassed again. So I have declared now.
And that's something that definitely President John Mahama was smiling at. Or was he smiling or laughing? Laughing at our declaration of assets. Have you declared your assets, Roland?
Which assets we are going to declare? Which one now? I'm not even in public office. I think it's for public office holders, really.
You're a public figure.
No, it's not the same thing.
Whatever.
I'm not sure I'm a public figure. I do broadcasting things.
Yes, that's what being a public figure is all about. Yeah. Yeah, because the public get to see you and basically will maybe get access to you. Well, the Chief Justice, Georgina Theodore-Wood, is urging the establishment of more law firms, as most businesses would prefer dealing with firms rather than individuals.
Speaking at the inauguration of the office complex of Ghana's largest law firm, Bintiencho, Lecha and Ankuma, she stated the demands of the 21st century require lawyers to specialize and also offer clients a plethora of services.
The gathering marked the launch of a week-long 25th anniversary celebration of the firm of legal practitioners. Bella, as the company is now known, has since its establishment seen more than 100 lawyers pass through, including the current Deputy Attorney General who was present at the ceremony. In her speech, the Chief Justice said clients who seek legal advice have become more discerning and so urged Ghanaian lawyers to adapt in order to meet the demands of the 21st century.
I sincerely believe that given the very bright future that with God's help and proper management of our resources actually lies ahead for our great country and the rest of Africa, developing the legal profession to internationally accepted standards will not only enhance respectability of the profession in our respective countries and beyond, it would also reinforce the competitive advantage of Ghanaian lawyers in terms of their employability and engagement.
The Chief Justice also admonished lawyers to use alternative dispute resolution in settling conflicts rather than going to court.
Strong, credible, and refreshingly clean ADR centers for arbitration or mediation hearings are badly needed in Africa.
A managing partner of the law firm, Ankuma, spoke about the advantages of practicing with the firm.
The world has become smaller than it was when we started practicing. And if the world has become smaller, then we need to start positioning ourselves. How well do we and how best do we compete? And my view is that we best compete when we are consolidated into larger law firms who can cover more ground than being just 1 or 2 people practicing. So what the Chief Justice said is spot on.
So you also go for coming up with law firms instead of individual lawyers doing their own thing?
That's what we've done here. Consolidate or be insignificant. You won't get the major work. We have to consolidate.
The Chief Justice commissioned a new office which currently has 45 lawyers practicing there.
Okay, so we wish him speedy recovery as we wait for him so that we can join together to give God one big song of praise.
Okay, so that'll be the Adon Praise concert, which has been rescheduled, and of course we'll tell you the date when that very gentleman, Hezekiah Walker, recovers from his illness.
Roland Walker.
Yeah, okay.
All
So
right.
that'll be for the news now. Next, we have to bring you what the stories as they have been summarized on the news portal My Joy Online, and we would also be looking at other news portals across the country.
All right, stay with us. We'll be right back.